Once part of the most iconic tag team in WWE history, Jey Uso now stands tall on his own at the pinnacle of success. No longer just Jimmy Uso's twin or Roman Reigns' sidekick in the bloodline, Jey has become a symbol, a warrior carrying the weight of his entire bloodline, defying every expectation to prove that he wasn't born just to stand next to greatness, but to become great himself. From a Samoan boy growing up in San Francisco, born into the legendary lineage of Rikishi and the famed Anoa'i family, Jey has seen every high and low. For years, he played the supporting role to megastars like Roman Reigns, The Rock, and even his own twin brother Jimmy. But what once made him a punchline, his main event Jey Uso nickname, would soon become his ticket into WWE history. In this video, we'll follow every step of Jey Uso's journey, from his humble, overlooked beginnings to the moment he exploded on the WrestleMania stage and became world heavyweight champion. Every kick, every drop of blood, every crowd chant of YED, they've all shaped the man standing in the ring today. But behind the bright lights lies a more complex truth. Family feuds, betrayals in the ring, and a battle to escape the shadow of his famous relatives. This is the story of a man who is underestimated, overlooked, but never broken. Think Jey Uso is just another lucky wrestler? Then you don't know anything yet. Watch until the end, because Jey's story isn't just about sports. It's about honor, loyalty, defiance, and the rebirth of a true warrior. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Biography and family. The heir to a legendary bloodline. Jey Uso, born Joshua Samuel Fatu on August 22, 1985, in San Francisco, California, is one half of a legendary set of twins. He's the son of Solofa Fatu Jr., better known to wrestling fans as Rikishi, a WWE Hall of Famer. His mother, Talijua Fatu, may not have stood under the spotlight, but she was the pillar behind the scenes, keeping the family grounded and the cultural fire burning across generations. From a young age, Jey was immersed in a world of roaring crowds, arena lights, and larger-than-life tales about the Anoa'i dynasty, arguably the most renowned wrestling family in the world. This wasn't your average upbringing. The blood flowing through Jey's veins is a mix of fierce Samoan warrior spirit and global wrestling superstardom. Names like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Roman Reigns, Yokozuna, Umaga, and the Wild Samoans weren't just distant relatives. They were towering shadows he would have to learn to step out from if he ever hoped to carve out his own legacy. Jey and his twin brother, Jonathan Solofa Fatu, known in the ring as Jimmy Uso, were inseparable. They played football together at Escambia High School in Florida and continued their athletic journey at the University of West Alabama. At first, Jey didn't plan to follow in his father's footsteps. He considered pursuing a professional sports career outside the WWE ring. But destiny had other plans. In a family like his, wrestling isn't just a career, it's in the blood. And when you carry the Anoa'i name, the squared circle isn't a choice, it's your fate. The twin brothers began training professionally under the guidance of their father and uncles, men who had already conquered the WWE landscape. Their near-telepathic chemistry made them stand out early in the amateur scene, and by 2009, WWE had taken notice and signed them. Just a year later, they debuted as the Usos, which means brothers in Samoan. From that moment on, Jey's journey wasn't just personal. It was as one half of what would become one of the greatest tag teams of all time. But even as the Usos became fan favorites and racked up accolades, Jey was constantly living in the dual shadows of his twin Jimmy, who was often seen as the more charismatic, natural leader, and of the Anoa'i family's already established legends. Every time he stepped into the ring, he wasn't just fighting an opponent. He was battling a legacy that expected him to prove he belonged for more than just his last name. Yet that pressure is what forged Jey Uso into something stronger. He wasn't flashy like Roman Reigns. He wasn't witty like The Rock. Jey was quiet, resilient, and relentless. The embodiment of an old-school Samoan warrior who let his fists, sweat, and blood do the talking. And over time, It was that quiet fire that began to win over fans' hearts. From deep roots of tradition, through years of grinding with Jimmy to earn respect, Jey slowly began paving a path of his own. And if his biography is the prologue, then everything that followed, his time in the bloodline, his clashes with Roman, WrestleMania moments, and his solo run, would be the chapters that turned Jey Uso into a true icon. WWE career. From legendary tag team to main event, Jey Uso. From the moment he stepped into WWE, Jey Uso wasn't walking alone. Alongside his twin brother, Jimmy Uso, he made his debut in 2010 under the name The Usos. The duo quickly grabbed attention with their explosive in-ring style, near-perfect tag team chemistry, and performances rich in Samoan culture, from the fierce Shiva Tao war dance to their traditional warrior-inspired ring gear. At a time when the tag team division was lacking standout talent, the Usos brought a breath of fresh air. It didn't take long for them to rise through the ranks. With their impeccable timing, electric pacing, and signature moves like the super kick, Samoan drop, and USO splash, the Usos were repeatedly pushed into top-tier matches. By 2022, they had captured the tag team championships 8 times and, most impressively, held the unified WWE tag team titles for a record-setting 622 days. That reign wasn't just a title run, it was a statement. They were no longer simply Rikishi's sons. They had become living legends in WWE's tag team history. But the true turning point in Jey's career didn't come with tag team gold. It began with a setback, Jimmy's injury in 2020. With Jimmy sidelined, Jey was suddenly thrust into solo competition for the first time since entering WWE. For many, it seemed like a temporary situation, maybe even a step back. But in that unexpected moment, main event Jey Uso was born. Jey was pulled into a high-stakes storyline involving the Universal Championship and his cousin, Roman Reigns, who had returned as the cold, calculating tribal chief of the Anoa'i family. Jey wasn't just fighting for a title. He was forced to fight for family, for loyalty, and for his place in the bloodline. The matches between Jey and Roman at Clash of Champions and Hell in a Cell 2020 were more than just physical battles. They were emotional wars loaded with legacy, pride, and psychological torment, showcasing Jey's underrated talent in storytelling, performance, and intensity. From there, WWE began seeing Jey differently. Main event Jey Uso, once a sarcastic jab, became a reality. He regularly headlined episodes of SmackDown and featured in major pay-per-views, carving out his own space outside of Jimmy's shadow. In 2022 and 2023, Jey's star power grew even more as he played a critical role in the Bloodline, one of WWE's most dominant and compelling factions in recent memory. But as tensions with Roman Reigns escalated, Jey faced a crossroads: stay loyal to the tribal chief, or stand up for his own beliefs and sense of honor. His decision to walk away from the Bloodline and challenge Roman head-on at SummerSlam 2023 marked the emotional peak of his career. And the story didn't stop there. In 2024, Jey captured his first-ever singles title, the Intercontinental Championship, watched by millions of fans worldwide. But his defining moment came at Royal Rumble 2025, where he outlasted 29 other superstars to claim victory in the iconic Battle Royal. There was no more debate. He was no longer Jimmy's brother or the Bloodline defector. He was a true main event player. At WrestleMania 41, Jey achieved the ultimate dream. He defeated Gunther, WWE's longest-reigning world heavyweight champion in history, in a brutal showdown, finally becoming world champion in his solo career. That night, Jey didn't just win a belt. He silenced every doubt, shattered every shadow, and proved once and for all that he was no longer anyone's setup act. He was the final name announced on the grandest stage of them all. Drama, the Bloodline saga, and shocking twists. If there's one chapter of Jey Uso's career that fans will never forget, it's his turbulent, emotionally charged journey within the Bloodline, one of WWE's most dominant and compelling factions of the modern era. In this saga, Jey wasn't just a background player. He was the emotional anchor, the catalyst behind its most dramatic peaks, internal conflicts, and jaw-dropping betrayals that shaped over 3 years of WWE storytelling. It all began in 2020, when Roman Reigns returned to WWE rebranded as the cold, calculating, and merciless Tribal Chief. With Jimmy injured, Jey was drawn into a psychological war against his own cousin, who now demanded obedience, not just support. In a series of grueling matches, most notably Clash of Champions and Hell in a Cell 2020, Jey was forced to kneel before Roman, not simply to protect himself, but to safeguard the honor and unity of their family. At the time, many believed Jey had broken, that he was no longer the fighter he used to be. But in truth, this was only the beginning of one of WWE's most complex story arcs, a tangled web of loyalty, betrayal, love, and power. From reluctant follower, Jey became Roman's right-hand man, the enforcer tasked with eliminating threats to the Tribal Chief's reign. When Jimmy returned in 2021, it seemed like things would stabilize. The twins reunited, the Usos reclaimed their tag team dominance, and the bloodline appeared unstoppable. But underneath the surface, cracks were already forming. Jimmy, ever the rebellious spirit, refused to blindly serve Roman like Jey had. This created a deep rift, a power triangle of control, emotional manipulation, and conflicting loyalties. Roman needed total submission. Jey was torn between his two closest family members, and Jimmy was drifting further away from the bloodline's ideals. It all came to a head in mid-2023. After enduring months of mental torment, from Roman's public berating to being attacked by Solo Sikoa, their younger cousin, to watching Jimmy himself humiliated by Roman, Jey finally snapped. In a moment that electrified the arena, he quit the Bloodline live on SmackDown, standing tall in front of a stunned crowd torn between cheers and shock. The most loyal soldier had become the first to walk away. But the biggest twist hadn't hit yet. After leaving the group and becoming a beloved babyface, Jey began blazing his own path. Yet in a moment that would go down as one of the most shocking betrayals in WWE history, his own twin Jimmy turned on him. During the high-stakes match between Jey and Roman at SummerSlam 2023, with Jey on the verge of defeating the Tribal Chief and freeing himself from the past, Jimmy appeared, only to attack his own brother. The audience was stunned. The internet exploded. Millions of fans debated endlessly. Why would Jimmy betray Jey? Was it part of a grand plan by Roman? Was it jealousy? Had the unbreakable bond between twins finally shattered? In the emotional aftermath, Jey delivered a now iconic promo. "I'm out," from SmackDown, from WWE, from everything. It was raw, it was real, and many fans called it the most heartfelt promo of the year. But a few weeks later, Jey re-emerged, not on SmackDown, but on Raw, fully severing ties with the Bloodline's remnants. He returned as a complete solo act, confident, independent, and no longer shackled by Tribal Chief politics or family bloodlines. The conflict, betrayal, and eventual reconciliation within the Bloodline wasn't just good television. It was emotionally resonant. It tapped into something deeper: brotherhood, honor, forgiveness, and the painful truth of being hurt by your own flesh and blood. And Jey Uso, who experienced every shade of that journey, proved that he no longer needed others to define him. He was writing his own legacy. YED, and how Jey won the crowd's heart. In a world filled with larger-than-life superstars carefully crafted by scripts and stage lights, Jey Uso stood out in his own way. Raw, real, and deeply relatable. It's that very authenticity that has turned him into one of WWE's most beloved figures today. From being the other guy in a tag team, he climbed to the top as main event Jey Uso, not through flashy marketing campaigns, but through sweat, tears, and an unshakable bond with the audience. One of Jey's most iconic solo-era trademarks is the shout, YED, a word that might sound random at first, but has come to symbolize everything Jey stands for: energy, defiance, fire, and freedom. YED isn't just a catchphrase. It's a mindset. It's the roar of someone who refuses to stay down. Every time Jey landed a kick or rose from a beatdown, he'd shout it, and the crowd would shout it back. He didn't need to try hard to be loved. He simply represented the everyday fighter, someone who's always overlooked, yet never backs down. Jey's in-ring style mirrors his personality. Sharp, intense, unrelenting. From bone-rattling super kicks to the high-flying USO splash. Every move he delivers feels like it's coming from somewhere real. Like he's not fighting for glory, but survival. That sense of urgency, of having nothing left to lose, resonates deeply, especially during his lone battles against the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, or Solo Sikoa. Fans don't just cheer for Jey because he's good in the ring. They see themselves in him. Another powerful element in Jey's connection with the audience is his ability to tell stories without words. While many wrestlers are boxed into over-the-top characters, Jey tells entire emotional arcs with just his eyes. When he hesitated while watching Jimmy get attacked, when he cried after being forced to hit Roman, when he screamed, "I'm out," after being betrayed by his twin, those weren't just wrestling moments. They were cinematic, they were real, and they gave fans goosebumps because they felt like more than a show. They felt like lived experiences. Outside the ring, Jey's appeal only grows stronger. Despite being a top-tier WWE star, his lifestyle remains humble, grounded, and refreshingly normal. He's not flaunting exotic cars or partying with celebrities. He spends his time with his family, his wife and 2 sons, and shares everyday moments like dinner at home, walks with his kids, or workouts in his garage gym. He's not involved in scandals, doesn't chase viral controversy, and avoids media stunts. He's just himself, and that's why fans stay loyal. Through this grounded lifestyle and unfiltered sincerity, Jey Uso has slowly become a symbol of resilience. He doesn't need a title to be remembered, though now he has one. He doesn't need to be the biggest, strongest, or flashiest. He just needs to be the most real. In an industry obsessed with spectacle, Jey's greatest strength is the simple truth. He is who he says he is. Wealth and lifestyle, from the ring to life behind the scenes. When people think of WWE superstars, they often picture glitz and glam. Luxury cars, sprawling mansions, and lavish parties. But Jey Uso is a different breed. Despite being a familiar face at WWE's biggest events and having stood victorious on the WrestleMania stage, his lifestyle reflects something far more grounded, modest, intimate, and almost refreshingly normal compared to his contemporaries. According to estimates, as of 2025, Jey Uso's net worth falls somewhere between $3 to $5 million. His primary income comes from his WWE contract, live event appearances, merchandise royalties, image rights, and to some extent, personal projects like podcasts or guest appearances. As a mainstay performer, especially during the dominant eras of the Usos and the Bloodline, his annual salary is believed to range between $300,000 to $500,000, not including bonuses from major pay-per-views like WrestleMania or Royal Rumble. But what truly sets Jey apart is how he uses his money, very differently from the flashy norm in wrestling circles. He doesn't show off exotic cars. He doesn't deck himself out in designer brands. You won't find him partying in VIP lounges. Instead, Jey chooses a quiet life focused on family, health, and his roots in the Samoan community. He lives in a peaceful home in San Francisco with his wife, Takeshia Travis, his high school sweetheart, and their 2 sons. The family also owns 3 bulldogs and often shares snapshots of their daily life. Homemade dinners, gym sessions, walks with the kids. For Jey, success isn't about how much gold you wear. It's about finding balance between fame and privacy. Jey is also deeply connected to his Samoan heritage. He's a regular face at Polynesian community events across the U.S., often appearing in traditional attire and paying tribute to his cultural legacy. This pride carries over into the WWE stage as well. Together with Jimmy, Jey famously brought the Shiva Tao warrior dance into the ring, honoring his ancestors in front of millions of fans worldwide, a spiritual connection that transcends wrestling. Visually, Jey has crafted a consistent and recognizable style, clean, strong, and no nonsense. He often wears athletic pants, plain tees, or hoodies from his own main event Jey line. In the ring, his look rarely changes. Braided hair, street-style beard, a lean and powerful physique, and hard-hitting, focused moves. Even at the peak of his fame, his image remains unchanged. A fighter for the people who doesn't need flash to be respected. Off-camera, Jey has been gradually building his personal brand through social media. His Instagram, at UCJuicy, offers glimpses into his real life. Family moments, behind-the-scenes photos, jokes with Jimmy, and candid captions like, "Just a dad, a husband, and a Samoan who loves this business." It's this level of transparency that strengthens his bond with fans. They don't just admire him as a wrestler, they connect with him as a person. And it's important to note, just because he lives simply doesn't mean Jey lacks ambition. His rise, from being dominated by Roman Reigns to winning the Royal Rumble and becoming World Heavyweight Champion, proves he's constantly grinding. He takes each step carefully, never rushing the process. And because of that, he's not just a fleeting star. He's someone who's built to last. Influence and current status, from quiet warrior to modern WWE icon. Once a background player in the shadows of Roman Reigns or Jey Uso, Jey has now become an irreplaceable part of WWE's modern legacy. But more important than how many titles he's won or how many matches he's headlined is the new role Jey Uso embodies. A symbol of inner strength, tested loyalty, and the relentless journey to rise above the shadow of destiny. WWE has seen its share of supporting characters break out into main event stars. But few have done it with the emotional depth and narrative weight that Jey brought. He wasn't just pushed by creative. He became the emotional heartbeat of the entire Bloodline storyline, WWE's most compelling saga over the last 3 years. Every move he made, every line he spoke, every decision he took felt like a moment pulled from a gripping drama series. Jey's decision to walk away from the Bloodline marked a turning point not just in his story, but in WWE's broader narrative direction. It ushered in a new era, one where characters weren't just heroes or villains, but complex, layered people with real inner conflicts. Jey exemplified this evolution. He obeyed. He rebelled. He broke down. He walked away. And then he stood back up. All of it didn't make him weak. It made him human. That's why, even though he isn't the biggest, strongest, or flashiest performer, he's won over the WWE Universe in a way few others can. With his 2025 Royal Rumble win, Jey didn't just earn a personal victory. He became a beacon for an entire generation of fans who have felt overlooked or overshadowed. When he walked into WrestleMania 41 to face Gunther, the IC powerhouse and longest-reigning World Heavyweight Champion in WWE history, that match wasn't just about a title. It was a declaration. And when Jey pinned Gunther to become champion, the world reacted with a collective gasp. He did it. Today, Jey stands tall as World Heavyweight Champion. But what makes this moment even more powerful is that it doesn't feel like a fluke or a marketing stunt. It feels earned. WWE didn't give him the belt because they had no one else. They gave it to him because Jey Uso had become the face of the people. In a time when Roman Reigns is stepping back, and stars like Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Cody Rhodes are reshaping their roles, Jey has emerged as a bridge, connecting the past and future through the raw truth of his journey. His impact goes beyond the ring. On social media, Jey Uso consistently trends after every major WWE event. His promo clips pull in millions of views within hours. Fans don't just quote him, they draw strength from him. Young people see him as a symbol of resilience. If Jey could get back up, so can I. Backstage, Jey is also a mentor figure, especially to rising talent, particularly among Polynesian wrestlers. He often works with his younger cousin Solo Sikoa, guiding him through the rough terrain of WWE. Jey doesn't hoard the spotlight. He shares it, understanding that to build a legacy, you need others to rise with you. So now, from once being the most underestimated member of the Anoa'i family, Jey Uso carries the torch into WWE's future. He's living proof that the so-called supporting role can become the leading man if you never stop fighting for who you are.